Hey everyone, today we are answering your questions on this week's Did You Know Show.
All right, so today we are answering a question from John. He's a user. He gave us a question over on our YouTube channel, and it's an interesting question about buying versus renting, so I'll read that to you here. He says, "Hi David, my wife and I are retiring in 2024. We have owned a home before, but have been renters since 2008. Any home we purchase now would be basically their forever home to live out the rest of their days, but we just don't know if the risks are worth buying in today's market. So should they buy a home in today's marketplace, given the perceived risks of everything going on?" So Julie, what's the first kind of thought that comes to mind on that question?
Yeah, so we talked and we feel similarly about this. I think anytime someone poses a question like that, does it make sense? Is it worth the risks? We would, in order to give the best answer, we would want to know more about their specific situation because there's variances. It was awesome that he reached out and asked this question. So I guess I'm going to say, generally speaking, we're in agreement that the long-term benefits of home ownership for most people outweigh renting.
Yeah.
And you can get in more why that is.
Yeah, and one of the major reasons that I brought up to John was when you purchase a home and you get a 15 or 30-year fixed rate mortgage, your payments are going to stay fixed for that time period as long as you're in that home. And for most people, our housing expense is our biggest monthly expense. So having that fixed rate mortgage over a long period of time, one that's predictable, makes a lot of sense for somebody in his situation. Because what is the alternative? The alternative is renting. And rents generally tend to track up over time. Here's a chart, I'll throw up it on the screen here. This chart tracks what average rents have done in the United States over the history of time since they began tracking it. And rents rise with inflation. So if you're somebody entering into your retirement years and you plan on staying in the house for any length of time, and he mentioned he wants to stay there to live out the rest of their days, so that leads me to believe that's a long length of time.
Yeah.
That they may benefit for having that fixed, consistent payment over that length of time.
Yeah, and I think that fixed payment would bring peace of mind really to anyone, but again, particularly in their situation where they're going to be retiring on a fixed income, that is, I would say, especially important. So on the flip side of the data and the graph showing rising rents, we also would want to look at, long-term trends in home price appreciation.
That's true. Yeah, and one more thing that comes into play is if they're in a position really to buy the house, a house. Because obviously when you're a homeowner, there's maintenance items that come into play. What if the roof goes out or the water heater goes out? You need to paint the exterior. You got to be able to budget accordingly for maintenance items such as that.
Yeah, so to recap, in most cases, if you intend to stay in a property long-term, the benefits of home ownership would likely outweigh the alternative, which is renting. So thank you so much for that question. We love getting questions. If you guys have any, you can leave them in the comments below here on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe while you're at it. Furthermore, we always welcome questions on Instagram and Facebook as well. And thank you for joining us today. We will see you next week.